A conversation's quality will be directly proportional to the amount of questions being asked. Because if we are in a conversation that, as I was recently, that everyone is just speaking over each other and they're really not thinking about, oh, I'm interested in what this person's saying, let me hear what they have to say. No, people are just screaming over each other, trying to find a little gap in your story or your whatever you're saying to input their own thing. And as I was in one of these conversations, I had to kind of mentally check out a bit and just observe what is happening, because it really got me thinking that, first of all, how many of conversations, I don't know if it's just nowadays or always, but how many of them are like this? How many of them are just people shouting over each other, wanting to be heard and wanting to express what they have to say? Now, of course, it's natural. We speak to be heard fundamentally, and everyone wants to be heard. But it's funny that the more you want to be heard, the less space you will give for someone else to feel that way. And the less you give that space for someone else to feel that way, the more they will also want to just not hear you. And so it ends up being this sort of very vicious cycle where, when these conversations happen with these types of people, it can feel very purposeless, because it's as if everyone is just shouting into the void and nothing happens. No thought really gets developed. No one really develops on what they were saying. Nothing. It is just, I say this, then you say that, then they say this, then they say this. And it really becomes pointless, these types of conversations, because at its core, and I'm going to connect here because I think this really connects to a bigger point in life, but at its core, if we are not willing to give what we want to receive, we're likely never going to receive it. And I'm not even saying in a direct sense that right then and there, but even then and there, in this example of the conversation, if you're talking, everyone's just shouting, and all of a sudden you just, ask a question like, oh, that's curious. How was that experience for you? Where was it? How was it? Whatever. It's almost as if people are going to be like, oh my God, I've just been yapping about. And then when that happens, others also realize, oh my God, I also want to retribute the favor, because now I felt heard. Let me hear what you have to say. And it becomes, well, what once was a negative spiral becomes a positive one. Now, not always. Some people just like to hear themselves speak way too much. Ironic, because I do these videos, so you could say the same thing, perhaps. But it really shows us the impact we can have if we are just willing to do one of the hardest things, I think, that we can do. And that is to have a thought that we really want to say, and instead of saying it, just say, you know what, I don't need to say this right now. Let me just go with the flow of the conversation. Let me ask people, let me let this go. And I think this act of letting go, and I think I'm getting a bit over the place with what I wanted to say, but because this is not even what I wanted to say, but this act of letting go is one that, especially when you really want to do something, when there's this sort of itch that you can only scratch in this manner. Let's say if you want to, that thought pops up, you have to say it. Or in worse things, if you feel the need to eat some fast food, and that's the only way you're going to scratch it, or if you feel lust, or if you feel whatever, the ability to feel it and be able to let go, I would say, is perhaps one of the most important qualities in dictating the quality of one's life. Because or let me rephrase, the less we can do that, the less we can feel it and let it go. So essentially, we're just a prisoner to our emotions, to whatever thoughts pop up into our minds. Excuse me here. Well, that's essentially gonna mean that we're gonna be a boat drifting afloat in a sea of temptations and of wrongdoings. Because if we look at our most primal emotions, or most common thoughts, and things we want to do, a lot of times they're not good. A lot of times they're self-destructing. They feel very good for a little bit, for a moment, but they don't feel very good after we do them. And once we become aware of ourselves a bit better, we're like, why did I do that? And I think, well, in the conversation, this exemplifies very well, but I want to go a step further. This was just a little detour, because I also think it shows a different side here, which is, and connecting to what we were talking about, that being willing to give to others what you want for yourself fundamentally. This is what I think is the most one of the most also important things in life, and it's so well represented in conversation. Because how many of us are just, living life as it's normal, of course, but just fully focused on ourselves. And we wake up thinking, I want to achieve these things, and I want this for my career, and I want to have this amount of money, and in the future, I like my body to look this way, my house to be this big, my all of it. But if we think about it, and nothing wrong with that, of course, I'm the same way, everyone is. But if we look at it, it is all fundamentally about our emotions and how I feel and how to improve my experience of life. But so rarely do we think about other people's experience of life and how to make it better and how to actually, at its core, to reach out a helping hand to those who need it. And it is a concept that the more I think about it, the more I realize that, first of all, in my life, I do not do it nearly enough. And no one really does. Because it's so easy to, I feel like, justify not doing that because of how inconvenient it is for us. And then justifying it as well, but no one ever really did it for me, so why should I do it? And all that. And I think that there's a great story from the Bible. I don't know exactly the chapter, the verses, but it's the where there's this man that I think was robbed and beaten up and left to die on the side of this on the road. And some people pass by him, they ignore even a priest as he's walking by across the street. I think he just prays for him, but he keeps walking, doesn't help. And then a Samaritan, that's it, the story of the Good Samaritan, I believe. Which at the time, if I'm not mistaken, a Samaritan was like not really well seen at all. These people were like, yeah, those people, ugh. And he sees the man and he helps him. He takes him to an inn and he takes care of him. And then he says to the innkeeper, take care of him. How many days it takes, when I come back, I will pay for him. And so essentially, he gives him what he needed, but no one else was giving him. He reached out a helping hand, well, not knowing anything about the person, not knowing if the person was bad, if he actually did something to deserve to be in that position. He didn't know. But he gave what he thought and believed the other person needed at that moment. And I think it just shows us so well how, first of all, a great example to follow, but how when I read it, how much I lack in those situations. How often do I, see similar situations in essence, maybe not as extreme, but and I just ignore and I walk away because I really don't want to deal with that right now. I got things to do. I don't want to deal with that. But who knows if I'm going to be the one in that position, or even beyond that. Like, what if that person just really needs some help? What if he was just unlucky and just needs some help? And we can do that, because I believe, and I don't believe in karma, so to say that I'm going to do good things to get good things back. No, but I believe it's that in the act of giving something, whether that's a ear to ear, yeah, that's how I say it, a ear to listen to what the person is saying, or some money to someone who needs it, or just whatever it may be. I think I essentially give also myself what I'm after, just not in the way that I really was expecting, because we focus so much on getting to goals that can not happen, just because none of these things are guaranteed. Perhaps you can do your best and sometimes you cannot reach these goals, but to give these things to other people is guaranteed. It is it is right there whenever you want it to just give away. And I think in that you receive what you really are after, because what you really are after, if you're like me, so perhaps I'm wrong, not everyone of course, but when you look at the core of it, it really is not a certain amount of money or of houses and properties and whatnot. That's just that's a nice consequence of what we're after. But at the end of the day, we're all trying to sort of scratch this itch we feel inside for more, for a sort of an ambition of to do more, to be better, to feel that I'm a better person fundamentally. But when we do those things, it's like we get that right away, because it's selfless. I can't even describe it beyond selfless. It is something that we do not thinking about ourselves. And I think when we do that, we realize just how self-centered we were being. And you give that money, you hear to that person, you do all that, and after that, at least for me, I'm like, I don't even care about the things I want. I don't even care about saying what I wanted to say. It's fine. How good was it to listen to that person? How good was it to help this other person? And so in this manner, I think it represents very well, even though this is completely not what I started the video with. But I think it just really shows us, to finish here, that what we are really after, the actions we are really after doing, and the people we are really after becoming is always accessible to us. It's just very inconvenient.